everybody. I'm Tommy, and you are on the lifeboat. We have 0 people in here, man. That's what my counter says. There's nobody here. Wow, it's depressing. Thought I was doing better than that. James, good to see you. How are you? Kristen Melinda, good to see you. Charlie Muffins. Jason P., my man, fastest wrench in the south, north, east, or west. Sometimes being an insomniac has its advantages. I've been following the trial. It's 9:04 a.m. here in Thailand. Well, all right. Mrs. G, good to see you. Saturday, Willie Nelson. Oh, wow. I love Willie. Crafty Witch, a.k.a. Mrs. Jason P. Check the Cherry Cola. What's happening? Hey, Jane Aldrich, good to see you. Good to see you. Kevin Hawthorne, Lakeland, Florida. How are you, my man? Martha, out in Mecca, Palumbo. Sandy, Wendy. The group is all here. Buddhist Beer, what's happening? Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Jay Rambo, glad you're here. So we've talked about this one for a long time, haven't we? Feel like this has been going on for like 4 or 5 years? Because it has. Hey, it's my brother, the Johnny Scoville. Good to see you too, Mrs. G. Why, thank you, Chicken Cherry Cola. That's a nice thing to say. Lee, how are you? Elizabeth Fraser, here you are. There you are. Donna Kebab. Good to see you. Hamster Heifer, how are you? Matrix Rabbit is in the house. Good to see you too, Tommy Bird. It's always a pleasure to see you, my man. It really is. Why, thank you, James. See that? Some people like that. Laura, good to see you. You know, the hat ends up getting hot. That's the problem with all hats, is that you end up getting hot. And of course, the massive bright lights that we have to film under, you know, the little circle rings, they're vicious, man. They're vicious. You can get a tan, especially with the amount of time I spend in front of them these days. Deezy, Razzle Dazzle is here. Mary Clemmer, how are you? Danette McClure. You may remember Danette McClure from such classics as, I'm sorry, but McClure, every time I hear that, makes me think of The Simpsons. Scooby. Rue, how are you? You will rue the day. Diane, good to see you. Good to see you. So we've been talking about this one for a long time, have we not? Laura, how are you? Yeah, Squirrel shoots you a high back. Squirrel's been on Zoom mode all day long, man. I got some footage to put up later. Zoomy cat, man. She has just been weird all day. You know, cats are weird, but it's really weird when... Oh, no. 20. Did I keep you guys waiting that long? Actually, we like getting it up there a little bit early so that people can knock it out of the park, right? Have an opportunity to hang out and... this is about connection after all, right? Mischief Managed, good to see you. So, we all know the story. The story goes, a man and a woman started drinking. This was nothing new to them. They apparently drank often. As the night progressed on, the only survivor from the night said that they started to play hide and seek. I kind of remember hide and seek. Blast from the past, good to see you. But I remember hide and seek as you would go and hide, and then someone would come and look for you. If the person who's supposed to be looking for you zips you up in a suitcase, chances are they know where you are, right? Probably not a great game for hide and seek. Yes, chasing a 5-year-old anywhere but around a Halloween carnival, good Lord. Yeah, you got your steps in. You got your steps in. Crush, what's happening, howdy? Cosmic Christie. Hey, good to see you, Cosmic Christie. It's a pleasure. Glad you're here. So, Nurse Holly, we've been talking about this one a long time. And she ends up zipping this guy up in the suitcase. She claims she leaves enough room in there so that he can get his fingers into the zipper. We all know everybody's got suitcases. We've all done this a million times, right? On the outside of the suitcase. And once the thing starts to open a little bit, if you were on the inside and you could get your fingers there, you might be able to. But here's what I find absolutely remarkable about this, man. You know, this is what I find absolutely remarkable about this case. Why did this rocket scientist, if you end up finding the suitcase the next morning, right? And you go, good Lord, what have I done? Wouldn't you take him out of the suitcase? Right? I guess maybe rigor mortis set in so badly that it was no point to. She said she tried to do CPR on him, which must have been really tough when he was inside a suitcase. You know what I mean? Kristen Melinda, got to make me look bad. Oddly, I did play hide and seek as a kid and got locked in a trunk. mom let me out pretty quickly, but I have been claustrophobic ever since. You know something? I can trace my claustrophobia to being locked in a small place myself. I'm not going to point any fingers at people that did it, but someone locked me in a small compartment. Not saying any names. 7 years old. Well, I think I was probably closer to about 4, I think. And my brother was probably about 8. She was an abusive POS, says Martha, and I don't think anybody's going to argue that. But funny thing, right? When all of this, she goes up to the police station. She does the first interview. They get her phone. When they open the phone, and she gives her phone up pretty willingly because she has no memory of making videos of this guy in the suitcase. And the videos are disturbing as hell. And I know you're going, we all know this, Tommy, but no one in a couple of years down the road when you find the lifeboat, they may not know who Suitcase Sarah is. This is really tough, Jay Rambo. And for everyone who's claustrophobic, this is really hard, right? I can't think of a worse way to die. I can't. To me, this is the most terrifying death in the world. They're a really great moment, sort of like the, there are certain moments in the course of taped trials that are always going to stick out, right? I mean, how long has it been since the OJ trial? And if it doesn't fit, you must acquit. It's just something that's seared into our minds because of that phony show that he did trying to put on a glove while a rubber glove was on. It was just a terrible, stupid thing to do. But anyway, she was going to, but she couldn't pull it off from the outside, right? She couldn't pull it off from the outside. You know something? There's something to be said for this. Sadly, if that had been a Samsonite, he may still be with us. I'm sure I couldn't get any grown male in my family to get into a piece of luggage. I've been deep diving into the Delphi case. Uh-oh. See what's happening? This happens to law nerds, right? There's the pivot. It's like, Suitcase Sarah's over. We got to start looking for the next one. And that's going to be a big one, people. That's absolutely going to be a big one. The Delphi case is just, Samsonite. That was way off. Wasn't even close. One of my favorite movies, man. Every single line in that movie is funny as hell. The Dumb and Dumber stuff was just great. But this woman has gone through about 9 attorneys, right? Before she ended up writing out a flyer trying to seek out an attorney. And this is kind of an odd situation, in all honesty, that the way everything transpired in this was ridiculous. She's been in the county jail now for years. This has dragged on and dragged on and dragged on. Finally, she goes to court this week. And anybody that stands back and looks at this from a distance goes, how in the name of God, right? How in the name of God could anybody think, I got a shot at getting off, right? I got a shot of beating this? In her head, right? In her head. The fact that she didn't want to kill George absolutely means that this couldn't be premeditated because she didn't plan to kill him. In her head, this is an accident. Trouble is, you shot a video, and that video, he's begging for you to let him out. He says he can't breathe, right? And you tell him to F you and F off. And you tell him, this is what it felt like when you had your hands around my neck. Really awful stuff, right? Awful stuff. But the press conference afterwards, her attorneys, they were talking, and someone had brought up the deal, right? I shot a video that said this may be the dumbest inmate on earth. And I was talking about Sarah Boone, because she had an opportunity to get a much lighter sentence. Now, I have been corrected. She would have done 85%. She would have done 85%. Nevertheless, hey, Russ, she would have been looking at a hell of a lot longer. I mean, a hell of a lot shorter sentence than she's going to be looking at now. But in her head, she couldn't get by the fact that I didn't mean to. If you watch the interrogation, it was the same thing with the cops. She figured they were going to let her go at the end, right? She had a notebook full of demands. Hey, where's my kid's laptop? Right? And what about my phone? Because you guys have this. You talk about delusional, right? Pure delusion. And I knew people like this. I guarantee you that Russ knew people like this. When you spend a lot of time in the county jail waiting to go to court, you find these people that Like they'll have their discovery, or they'll have, you know what the case is. It's been in the newspaper. Everybody, like, they're stone cold busted, but they got this theory in their head about why they're not going to get me. This is double jeopardy. They'll be like, bro, you haven't even been to trial yet. What do you mean this is double jeopardy? But guys get like this much knowledge. They talk to a couple of jailhouse lawyers who say to them, no, you can beat this, right? Well, murder 1 is premeditation, right? This was murder 2. They weren't even charging her with murder 1. So all they really had to show was what? That she zipped that baby up and that she walked away. I don't know how the hell this didn't occur to her. And you got to know that her attorney explained this, right? The attorney absolutely said, Sarah, you're going down a dangerous path. The attorney guaranteed also, when he brought that deal to her, he's had to have said to her, listen, this is the deal. You got to take this. You got to take this. They will tell you, I've had attorneys say to me, you are going to be screwing up massively if you don't take this deal. Plain and simple. If you don't take this deal, you are absolutely going to, sorry, people, I'm just making sure that this update doesn't have anything to do with this. So the deal was on the table, and she got the opportunity to save the state some money. And whenever you have an opportunity to save the state some money, the state will be happy as hell to allow you to do that. And she didn't see the benefit of that. Instead, she decides to go all the way to the box. And after about 8 lawyers or 9 lawyers, she gets this Owens fella, right? Who is really kind of old. Hey, Cricket. He's old. Behind on this case, was she upset with him for cheating or something? Not that what she did is justified. Of course not. And no harm, no foul in asking a question, right? So we all get smarter. There's nothing wrong with that. And questioning things like that is important anyway, right? We want to make sure that nobody's ever getting hosed in the situation. But in this, yeah, he definitely allegedly cheated on her. He also allegedly put his hands around her neck. There had been domestic violence between these two, right? On both sides, going back. Let's just say that the police visited their house before, right? This was nothing new. And it really seems like, sadly, and people on the lifeboat will understand this, right? But sadly, I think these two probably could have spent the rest of their life on planet Earth together and never harmed one another if it hadn't been for booze. She even said in the interview, it's never a problem. He's the sweetest guy in the entire world until he starts to drink. Now, we know that there was some DV in this, right? There was. Absolutely no two ways about it. However, she had the ability to get out and to leave. This wasn't one of those situations that she was locked in a home. She couldn't get out. She feared for her life. There was nothing like that. Nothing like that at all. Right? This is a person who could have walked away. And she waited to walk away until her live-in boyfriend was zipped up into a suitcase that if you were to remove my right leg, I'm not sure you could get it in this suitcase. I mean, on the real, there are very few guys that could have fit in this suitcase. If he boxed, they would have called him flyweight, right? This guy was 105 pounds. He was 5'2". This is not a big fella. And she said in the interview with the police, we were laughing. There was no fighting last night. We were getting along great. We went outside. We spent a lovely day together. We drank a little wine, and then she wanted to play some board games and to do a little hide and seek. Yeah. Barb says he's only 63, but I'm 65, and he looked like my dad. Wait a second. Her attorney Owens is 63. I want someone to produce a birth certificate. Are you sure it didn't say that he was born in 1863? Read that again carefully. No, it's not even necessarily so much how he looks, right? But the way he communicates, right? This is a guy that he's the kind of guy that still calls girls sweetie, right? And stupid things like that. He's a guy that hasn't much got the memo. He talked about the girls on the team. I guarantee you that an attorney that spent all that time in law school doesn't want to be called one of the girls on the team. I promise. But yeah, and this is it, Annette. Right? Here's the thing. We could have talked about this until the end of time, right? This is one of those things that we could spend a lot of time on. But what it comes right down to is, doesn't matter whether she meant to or not, right? Doesn't matter whether she meant to or not. It doesn't, you don't have to absolutely go out of your way and say, well, I was trying to do this, right? But she probably should have taken the plea deal. Rochelle knows. Here's what's going to happen. Here is what's going to happen. The suitcase was a carry-on, says Finding Dory. And that's not a joke, right? Really, inside this thing, this is the kind of a suitcase that they're not going to say to you, it doesn't fit in here, you got to check it. They will absolutely let you put this in the overhead compartment. It was horrifically small. Even being that small, there was no room inside that thing. None. And if all she did was zip them up in that bag, that's horrific. It really is, but that's not what happened, because there are several videos, and when you look between the two, you will notice that the suitcase is in a much different place than it was in the other video. And I'm sure she didn't unzip it and say, George, get out. I'm going to move the suitcase over here, and then I want you to get back in it. No, she went boom, boom, tipped it over on its head, on its back, on its head. God, it's awful. And it's hard to not look at that environment and say, I wonder whether or not that suitcase went down the stairs. He was a bumbling idiot. You know what? I wasn't going to say it quite like that. Yes, we are, Russ. There will be a night yard on Sunday night. On Saturday, I do a show with my brother over on Chase the Heat. Jay Rambo says, my ex is in the legal field and is only 60, but looks 80. It happens. Well, you know what? It happens with criminals, too. I'm 26. Look how bad I look. Right? The drugs and the crime will catch up with you too, right? I got to look at least 40. I'm kidding, obviously. I'm older than dirt. They were both short, a couple of clowns. Yeah, Kiki Cookerson, I'm not being funny. This thing was like, if you read the dimensions, I got law nerds out the wazoo. Could somebody give me the dimensions of that suitcase? I know it was like 20 inches by maybe 24. And I want to say that Anna says, I fit in carry-on. Yeah, I don't. I guess it would take the entire overhead compartment, to be sure. Yeah. Anna, you are tiny. You fit in the over. DCD 416. I don't think I've ever said hi, have I? If I have, we'll just do it again. Hi, how are you? Hey, how are you? He was 5 foot and 102, is what Barbie says. I was looking for the dimensions of that suitcase. If somebody could get it to me, I was told he was 5'2". Could be wrong. 28 by 20. Thank you, Linda Smith. 28 by 20. We're talking about 2 feet 4 inches. Yikes! And about 7 inches deep. Good Lord, man. I feel like he was afraid of her. Yeah, you know something? I think he was afraid of her. She's dumber than a second coat of paint. I have never heard that. I've never heard that. You left and forgot to come back at the start? Well, that happens to the best of us, Jam Jam. At least you're here now. We're only about 20 minutes in. And you get a shout out, Jam Jam. What's happening, Scooby-Doo? A dose of rose. Good to see you. I watched a show how zippered luggage isn't safe. No kidding. Easy to break into if you have an ink pen. You know something? Luggage is really easy to break into. Absolutely no two ways about it. There are some types of luggage that is a little bit more difficult to break into. I used to, and the statute of limitations is up on this, so I used to FedEx drugs all over the country from a home base at the time in Houston, Texas. But I would put dope inside of suitcases, and I would shut the suitcases and lock it. Then I would put that inside of a cardboard box. The cardboard box would then go inside another cardboard box, and you'd put packing peanuts around it. And that's how I would ship them out. But I would ship out Samsonites, right? And they're a hard shell, right? They're a lot. He'd have had a little bit more room in there, I think. They're also a lot bigger. You can't check a Samsonite. They're considerably bigger. No. That's funny as hell. I can't read it out loud, but it's funny as hell. He did look completely emaciated. He's just, there are people that have really fast metabolisms, right? Cosmic Christie says, I'm 5'2" and little. Now I'm not going near suitcases. Good call, Christy. Stay away from them. I mean it. Carry-on bag shouldn't be larger than 22 inches long, 14 inches wide, and 9 inches high. I cheat every single time I fly. Is that really the truth, Dose of Rose? Holy hell. You have no idea how bad I cheat. I don't own any luggage that's that size. Nothing. And you know what? I would rather check my luggage. The problem is when I do, nothing good happens. Yes, I did watch the closing. And I'll tell you something that was remarkable to me. Did you see the press conference that it wasn't a press conference. Usually they have press conferences. This was different. James Owens just took some questions when he went outside the courthouse, right? He stood out there and a little crowd got around him and a couple of people shouted some questions at him. I think I heard our Joel from Surviving the Survivor. I think I heard Joel Wallman shout a few questions as well. But the answers that he gave, how concise he was, how it flowed. If you watched him do this press conference, your first thought's going to be, man, who the hell is this guy? Because I never saw him in court once. The guy that was outside was doing an amazing job at communicating. Unfortunately, he didn't do that inside. It's okay to eat your dinner, Cricket. We're not going to give you any hell about that. Barbara Waite. Her charming husband is 6'7" and 275 pounds. I would need a steamer trunk. Yes, and a good size one, right? And a good size one. Where is passenger shaming when you need him? Says Kristen Molina. That's right. Where is she? Because that's always a perfect person to have here. Thank you, Barbie World. Appreciate that. Yeah, if he had an ink pen in his pocket, if he had, I think, anything in his pocket, and I'm not being a wise ass, because this is one of those things that I thought about, right? If you had locked me in one of those suitcases and trying to push up wasn't going to break through that, I would have been trying to get the zipper to. And if you had anything shut, you put it into the, you can break the. It's not hard to get the zipper to. Once you get the teeth to start coming apart, it's all over but the crying. We've all gone through that before. It sucks. Danette McClure says the way she was treating him in those videos was heartbreaking. I actually cried. He was a broken man. Maybe the DV was mutual because it was self-defense on his side. Well, size-wise, I mean, they were pretty equally sized. She was bigger than he was. And I do think that there was abuse on both sides. I also think that this is a really sad case because when she went in and did the interview, if you watch that interview, she talks about how much she's done for George. Nobody on planet Earth has done more for George. She went to every one of his court hearings, all of his trials. She knew his probation officer by name. I promise you, the fact that she knew the probation officer by name and the fact that they were close, she used as a weapon all the time. All the time. I promise you. She would say to him, I am going to call your probation officer. I promise you that got used as a weapon constantly. It's just one of those things that, be careful, Russ. It's one of those things that people will do. You know something? I refuse to believe that that's the size of carry-on, and I'm going to go with the proper size for carry-on is anything that I can get into that overhead compartment and still manage to get it to shut, right? And you got to make sure that you just do it really quickly. You got to do it really quickly. And that says, being a survivor of DV, myself, I saw right through her BS. I don't think you're the only one to say that. James says, this is all so disturbing. I'm glad I hadn't heard of this trial and that I'm here with you all learning about it, as horrible as it is. It is absolutely horrific. Honestly, it is absolutely horrific. Belt buckle, someone said. Yeah, that would have been a good idea. He was able to poke his fingers through and she hit his hand with a baseball bat. There is reason to believe that I guess we're never really going to know exactly what happened with the baseball bat and a lot of other things. The problem is she has said so many kind of different things. Yeah, the blood alcohol level was high. I think it was 1.8 or 1.9. It was really high. It was closing in on 2. And it says, yeah, blood alcohol almost a 2. And when you're Martha, have a good night's sleep. Thank you for stopping in and hanging out with us. I really appreciate it. Scooby-Doo says he had black eyes. That's true, right? That they weren't getting along beautifully, right? All night. That's just, I can't believe that that's the truth. And if they were, then maybe this is premeditated, right? Because the second she got him into that bag, right? Apparently she became a really mean person. A really mean person. Kristen Melinda says it takes a lot to move my needle on the shock meter. The details of this case are kind of breaking it. Yeah. We did puzzles, made crafts, cleaned the house. As a treat, we got wine. Yeah, treated him like a child. And this is a great point, Finding Dory. He was somebody that was trapped in the legal system. And if you get trapped in the legal system, very often you find yourself stuck in relationships where the people that you're with can hold you hostage in that relationship. Honestly, the address that you're staying at that the court needs, if that belongs to somebody other than you, that is leverage. And if the relationship is rocky, if there's alcohol involved, I guarantee you she tortured this man a lot more than just what happened when he got into that suitcase. Sadly, I have a feeling that that George was being tortured by her for a very long time. She kept his birth certificate, and yeah, another important. She was awful, right? She really was. And when you hear her in the interview, it's really obvious that everything was about her, right? This is a person that she allegedly loved, right? And he's lying in a morgue, and she's worried about her. She's worried. How dare you not tell me that you were going to arrest me? Like that was a real stumbling block for her, right? Sharon, it was wasted taxpayers' money. On the bright side, they didn't waste a lot of it, right? I mean, as far as trials go, this was over pretty quickly. There wasn't weeks and weeks and weeks of evidence, but it was absolutely awful. What airline have I flown? All of them. I promise you, Linda Smith. All of the major ones. I flew a lot for a long time. I worked in a business that brought me to a different city every week for a decent number of years. Yeah, you know what? Finding Dory makes it, if you're new to this, right, don't watch the videos of her talking to him when he's in the suitcase. Or if you would like to, just know that you've been warned. It's disturbing as hell, right? It's literally listening to someone beg for their life and hearing the person who loves them say, F you. He calls her name out, and you literally can hear that he's at this point fighting for air. And her response is, that's my name. Don't wear it out. It's just cold. He said, I can't breathe. He said, well, this is how I felt when you cheated on me. He said, I'm serious. I can't breathe. And she said, well, I couldn't breathe when you had your hands around my neck. It's disturbing. It's really disturbing. Sharon says her lawyer failed her. Now, Sharon, I know we have a long delay between what I'm saying and what you're saying, but I assume that you mean by letting her go all the way to the box, right? By trying this case. I personally believe you could not have gotten her you could not have dissuaded her. I think that sadly, she can't, I don't know, maybe, I'd love to know a lot more about her past, a lot more about her background, because her inability to realize that the fact that you didn't mean to do this is not going to save you from going to the joint, right? There are a lot of people in prison who killed the person by accident. That does not stop you from going to the joint, but she could not seem to figure that out. Netherwood Mullenix, that just might be this might be the comment of the day, right? Drinking makes people stupid. It's really kind of hard to argue with, right? And here's the thing. That's science, right? We start to drink. What's the first thing that happens, right? Honestly, we start to put different parts of our brain to sleep. Not turned off, but slowing them down. And that's why, your reaction times, this is why they don't want you behind the wheel of a car, right? Things start to happen. One of them is your decision-making processes gets badly altered. At the same time, your inhibitions get lower. What could possibly go wrong? Honestly, there's a really funny comedy routine a guy does where he's having a conversation with alcohol and then he has another conversation with weed. It's a very funny spot. I'm only 4'10". I never carry on because I can't reach the overhead bins. Blast from the past. That's why you just wave down the first big bald guy. Every single time I go on a plane, somebody waves me down and I help them put the bag in the overhead. I'm telling you, without fail, it happens every single time. I must just have that very kind face. I watched one episode of Netflix Escape from Dannemora, claustrophobic and dark. Yeah, that's I've not watched that, but Dannemora is where the Menendez brothers are, if I'm not mistaken. From playful game to revenge. No. Her lawyer failed her. Yeah. I think you're right. Layla. It's all right, Layla. We're not going to pick on you for being late. Other side of the world and all of that. All the side of the world and all that. Wow. Here's a take, right? Here's a take I haven't heard. I think she would have done this sober. She was an evil person to begin with. I can't argue that, right? Literally, I cannot argue with that. However, she definitely seemed a really different person, didn't she? I mean, the countenance, everything about her. And I do believe that when we were seeing her the day after she zipped this thing up, right? The following day, she was still housed, right? She was still shafazed. I promise she was not sober yet. And she wanted to be able to bring her anxiety medication into the joint with her, right? If you're taking anxiety medication, 9 out of 10 times, what are you taking? You're taking a benzodiazepine, right? And when you mix benzos and alcohol, your odds of blacking something out are fantastic. Guaranteed she blacked out, right? We all know she did. And you know how we know? Because she was shocked as hell when she saw that video. I promise you, she had no idea it existed in spite of the fact that she recorded it. Did you see when the defense called for a mistrial for prosecutorial misconduct today? They accused the prosecutor of planning a family outburst while the video played so the jury would see it. Unreal. You know something? How could you not? I mean, this happens a lot. This happens a lot. You know what happens is you've got the family of the deceased. You've got people in there that really care about this. And all of a sudden, sometimes it happens when they're showing autopsy photos or, ideally you would hope that, mom or whoever may go outside during part of this. But yeah, this is, it seems disrespectful, right? To say that was done intentionally. It seems really, really, disrespectful. Scapegoat, good to see you. Glad to have you here on the boat. Glad to have you here. This is interesting. Finding Dory says, did you hear George's family being interviewed? They knew he was like this to him. You remember her getting all kind of weird about contacting his family? She goes through this whole thing with the police about who's going to contact George's family. She made it sound as if, they were close. Because why? Because she's taking care of him, right? Because he needs to be taken care of. He's a worthless convict. And she is a reliable person. She's a good person. She's never been in trouble. Like, she went down this whole list of crap that made her a good person, right? As if to say, he's not. But I'm hanging out with him anyway, right? I'm being a good person. I'm taking him to every single court thing. I know his probation officer, for God's sakes. We're actually friends. Yeah, I'll bet you are. I'll bet you are. It is hauntingly disturbing, to be sure. Contortionist tax. My daughter was 5'3" and weighed 102 pounds and could fold herself into a 16 by 16 inch storage cube complete with the lid on. That is the most frightening thing ever. You know what? For those of us of a specific age, there used to be a show on television called That's Incredible. This was a, pre-internet. This was really high tech. This show was ridiculous. It left you saying, hey, that's incredible. A guy trying to catch a bullet in his mouth, right? That kind of thing. But there was a guy who got into a glass box that was out on stage. You watched him do it. And man, being claustrophobic, watching it was so disturbing. But his big, lanky, long body pulls up inside this thing. And for all intents and purposes, it's a little bit bigger than a pack of Marlboros. And this guy who's 5'10" somehow gets inside of the thing. It might have been a little bit bigger than a pack of Marlboros. But you understand the point? It's a very small box, terribly small. And he gets in it, and they shut the box. And then they spin it around on this little thing for a while. I know some of you saw it. I know some of you did. Wander Joy. The video is all the prosecution needed. You know what? There were so many times during this where you thought to yourself, that it's already done, right? That the prosecution's already won. The prosecution's already won. They won before it got started. Caddy wants to know, what kind of time do I think that the judge will give her? I don't think that she's going to get a whole lot of sympathy. I don't. She cost the state money. Wander Joy, how are you? She cost the state money. She had a deal on the table that could have saved all of this BS, skipped all this, gone straight to the joint, and started to do her time. Instead, she wanted to take this guy's family and put them through what they had to go through so that she could be found guilty. They're not going to give her the same. Now, if this were the feds, I could probably give you a pretty accurate prediction for how bad the screwing is, because it's usually at least double, if not triple, what you're looking at. And if you were arrogant or you said something stupid, I mean, they can literally just throw it away. There was a case a while back where there was somebody that had been convicted for trying to do something seditious to the U.S. This guy was the T word, right? That usually uses bang bangs to try to make to get people's attention, right? He was a T word. He got a really long sentence and got an attorney to finally get him to where he could get back in front of a sentencing judge to say, hey, 25 years is a really long time. I don't think it's a fair sentence. The judge said, you're right. I don't think this is a fair sentence, but I'm not lowering it. I'm making it more. True story. You can look it up. I think he went to 35. I can't remember what the deal was, but instead of lowering it, he gave him a little bit more time. And it's a way to tell other people that, oh, you want to play these games? You know something? I get that. Don't you guys? I get that. I almost got sick when a lawyer advised her to take the plea. Yeah, of course the lawyer advised her to take the plea deal. Mary, of course he did, right? He would be the worst lawyer on planet Earth if he didn't say, in fact, what's that word? Malfeasance or whatever. This is the kind of thing that you have to say what you believe is best for your client. Your client doesn't have to take it. And I know this is true because I was a criminal. They'll come in and say to you, I know you don't want to work with them, but if you were to maybe turn in your friend, Jack, right, who they really didn't like, maybe if you'd like to turn in your friend Jack, I know you're not going to do it. I know you're going to be offended by it. Legally, I have to come and tell you what they said, right? So I'm sure that they let her make the decision herself, but I'm sure that he said, if you get convicted, you're going to get a lot more than this. This is your chance. But in her head, it didn't matter because she didn't mean to kill George. She loved George. She did tons of good stuff for George, right? Just listen to her. She'll tell you, I promise. She'll list that crap off like this, right off the top of her head. She knows everything she did for him. She had that crap alphabetically organized in her head and ready to talk about, didn't she? Ready to talk about. Bad people, man. Bad people. Right? Absolutely stupid thinking that she's smart as hell, right? Stupid, but making you think you're smart. Alcohol, to be sure, man. Finding Dory says, I'm very petite. I always ask if I need help. Can I use your tallness? I've heard that before. Do I look familiar? Or, hey, you're a lot taller. Can you help me? And since my mother is 5'0", right? I always hope that if my mom's on a plane and I'm not there, somebody's going to help her with her luggage. So I always feel like, of course I'm going to help you. Right? And then from here on out, I'll probably say it's about the size of the Sarah Boone. Christine, good to see you. You watched the entire trial. Christine, are you happy? Right? This is a good outcome, no? Good Lord. Good Lord. People. Can I get a 19? Put a number 19 in the chat for Mary Barnes if you're proud of her. This is the 19th anniversary for being clean and sober. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Congratulations. Thank you for thinking of us when you come by. This is the official participation trophy of the Lifeboat. This is yours tonight, Mary Baronzoni. I tell you something. You got any idea how many times you got to win the battle to stay sober 19 years? You got any idea how many times you got to go outside, write down in a journal, call somebody that you care about, right? Go through it. The longer that you sober, the more you kind of get into a routine and you program and things are good. But there are always going to be times along the way where it would just be a lot easier to not feel today, right? It happens. The best thing that we can do is when it happens, tell about 4 people about it. For real, because I've found that when I start telling people about it, they're never going to let that happen to me. For real. They won't. They'll show up here. They'll talk to me on the phone nonstop. They are not going to let that happen. Mary Barnes, I could not be happier for you. Congratulations on 19 years of living, right? Living. Tommy, if you were a prosecuting attorney or a defense attorney, which one do you think you would be more successful at? I would be a better defense attorney. I would absolutely be a better defense attorney. And the reason for that is, no disrespect, right? I shouldn't say this because I go on so many panels, but just keep it real. If what you do for a living, right, you show up excited every day, and what you do for a living is go in and try to get somebody as much time behind bars as you can, I realize there are people that need that. I'd have been happy if Danny Masterson got another 10 years. 30, 40 would have been good. 50 would have been good. Like, we don't mind when certain people get huge time because you really feel like they got it coming. But then you see some crimes where you go, man, this person was getting high, right? It's the 3rd time you caught them, but all they're doing is getting high. This is somebody miserable in their own skin. You think a 10 spot's good on this? You're going to take 10 years of this person's life because they're uncomfortable in their own skin to the level that they need to get intoxicated on something every day just to get by. You know, the rest of the world thinks that people who are addicted to drugs are addicted because it's so much fun. I got news for you. It's no fun. No one's having any fun. It's just that feeling of being uncomfortable in your own skin is worse. They had a recording or a text where she said she was going to get rid of him to his family. Unlikely she was thinking of unaliving him, but it wouldn't surprise. But would it surprise me? No. Rue, thank you for the support. I really appreciate you. And yeah, I think I'd make a better defense attorney if I could do it, but I can't. That's disturbing, right? Finding Dory says drinking creates wet brain. It sure as hell can. It doesn't happen to everybody. Even people that are abusive drinking for years. You could get 2 guys drink the exact same amount of stuff. One will develop into there's a medical name for it. We've got somebody here that wants to put that up there. But street name for anxiety pill, bars. Yeah, I've heard bars. Bars are usually alprazolam which is Xanax, because the lower amounts, like the quarter milligram, half milligram kind of stuff that are shaped like footballs, even 1 milligrammers they'll make in shapes of footballs. But if they go more than the 1, it's usually bars, almost like Pez, except they're a little bit longer. They've got like little marks so you can break them into smaller pieces. And bars are bad, right? Bars are bad. If you see bars these days, they have to come out of a bottle that has your name on it. This is one of the pills that they're knocking off, right? They're making fake alprazolam all over the place and putting all kinds of bad stuff in it. Huh? Please don't buy anything on the street. Nothing. Please, nothing. CBC, Florida court reporter. You know what? Would there be any place on planet Earth that would be more exciting to be a court reporter than Florida? And I'm not bagging on Florida. I love Florida. First of all, we got a lot of friends down in Florida, and but boy, do we see a lot of trials down. There's a lot of really sensational kind of trials that are in Florida. And let's be honest, if you Google Florida man, right, you will be peeing your pants laughing by the time you're through like the first 5. Florida man robs 7-Eleven with a alligator. Like some of the stuff you read is just so ridiculous. Thank you for the super sticker. I really appreciate you. Wow. Mary said my ex attacked me in front of a judge. So when I had to testify, they had me sit with the DA at their table. And I had sheriff protection. Your ex sounds like a real gem, Mary. Sorry, but I'm so glad he's your ex, right? Well done. Well done. Well done. Good for you, right? And thank you for sharing that with us. Every time somebody successfully gets away, I love it when people will say, this was a bad situation. I got out of this, because there are people listening to the sound of my voice who are in really bad situations, right? If they're in such a bad situation that the person that you live with is watching everything you do, and that kind of stuff. I've been told that libraries, and there are some other ways, but there are people who do this for a living. He kept telling the cops that his family was going to try. Yeah, right. And I'll tell you something. Someone is going to ask me before this show is over, what kind of time is she going to do? Tell me, are people going to be cruel to her? I will tell you something. I can't answer what's going to happen in a woman's prison very well. However, here's what I can tell you. The fact that the person she killed wasn't white is going to be an issue for her. I promise you. The fact that the person she killed isn't white is going to be an issue for her. It's not a good thing when you kill someone outside of your own race. Now, again, who cares, right? People inside are going to care. The people that are going to be unhappy with her, and there will be plenty of them, I promise you, are going to be Latinos, and they're not going to be happy. I have a feeling she's not going to do a whole lot of fun time. Good week for law, right? Do you remember that show, Finding Dory? Terrible, right? Ripley's Believe It or Not. I loved Ripley's Believe It or Not. And the host, Jack Palance, the greatest voice. Believe it. He always sounded like he was getting ready to die, but he lived for a whole lot longer after that. Blast from the past, looking good and green. Thank you. Yeah, I remember Ripley's Believe It or Not. How many years was the offer? What it was going to come down to is, and I misquoted this the last time because I was under the assumption she was going to be doing 65%. She would not be. She would be doing 85%. So it was probably going to be around 8 more years inside. Now, that's tough, right? But 12 years for removing somebody callously as hell off of planet Earth. And you videoed it, right? You videoed it. In case anybody thought that it really was an accident, you're just that kind of person, they had to hear you tell the guy to F off while he was dying. She's a hero, right? She's a hero. Mary Barons, no, I am so sorry to hear about your loss. Thoughts and prayers. You never have to apologize for not being on the boat, and because you're taking care of business. But thank you for telling us, so that we can all tell you that we're pulling for you, and be a little bit more understanding if we see you having a bad day, right? Finding Dory says, plus she went through 9 attorneys. The judge has had so much patience. And you know something? The judge has had a ridiculous amount of patience. Yeah, if she had taken the deal, she'd have been out in less than 10. Guaranteed. And you can shorten it. There's programs you can do. There's things that she could have done to try to make that closer, right? Wharton Thistle, good to see you. You were a smooth criminal. Oh, it's one of my favorite prison stories of all time. You know what? I'm going to bust this one out for new people here. The people that don't know me, because this is such a funny damn story. And you know something? I know eventually I'm going to get an email. Mary, congratulations. Thank you. Thank you for being strong. Thank you for talking about it here, right? She was Puerto Rican. Yeah, there's going to be all kinds of problems for her among the non-white ladies. They're not going to be happy at all. At all. And you got to understand, because people will go, yeah, but how many people in there are going to see this? They don't have internet access. They don't have all that. There are people on the street that have been watching this entire case who are going to get busted tomorrow, the next week, next year, and they're going to end up on a yard with her. And when they walk in, they're going to go, you got to be kidding me, right? She's on this yard. Man, you should have heard this phone call. You should have heard the stuff that she was recording. Someone is going to come in there. I promise you, people. I promise you. And there are people right now that are going to be on the same bus with her. She's been down so long. Do you realize the number of people who are at yards that already know? For real, this case has been going on for years. She's going to be in a bad way. Wow. I hate mean drunks. I really do. Is there anything worse? Miss Dragon, good to see you. Thoughts and prayers with you as well, hon. Spending my money on things I believe in equals joy. You know what, Jason P? You're one of the good ones, man. For real, you're one of the good ones. Gonna see you next year. And we're gonna talk about this now and say that there's not gonna be any burning. We're not gonna do any of that heat stuff. You want to burn my brother? That's great. Or my brother wants to burn with you. We're just gonna hang out, maybe have a soda. I don't intend to burn myself. I do like going to those, but my brother does a lot more of the burning stuff than I do. So when I was in prison this last time, there was a guy in my unit that had been down for like 20 some odd years and never gotten any ink. He's from New York. Never got a tattoo in 20 years, which is, it's almost dangerous, to be honest. Because when you look around and you see people that got no ink, you almost think, are they a rat? Are they cool? Why is there nothing on them? Every convict's got some ink, right? But this good dude had nothing, and he was getting ready to get out and decided he was going to get a tattoo, right? Now that he was getting ready to get out, he was going to get a tattoo. And the tattoo he was going to get was criminal, right? I'm not kidding. Reverse shadow, if you know what that is, right? So it's going to be dark all over, and the letters are not going to have anything in them, right? So it's really a chunk of ink. It's like a headband, and then where there isn't ink, it's going to spell criminal. The guy's in there, and he's doing his thing, and it's a painful process, right? It really is. And if you've been doing it for 5 or 6 hours or 7 hours or however long they've been at it, the guy tapped out. He's like, look, man, we got to finish this tomorrow. I just can't do this anymore. And it said criminal, right? The C was not done. And the guy said to him, he's like, man, we can get this in about an hour, hour and a half, man. I'll go fast. He said, no, man. No, we got to finish this tomorrow. I'm dying. He said, all right. The following day, we went on a lockdown. And when we go on a lockdown in a prison, before you come off the lockdown, they're going to search your cell and trash everything. Because the lockdown was done for some reason or another. We got you angry, the staff, so they're going to trash everybody's cell. In the process of doing that, they found the tattoo gun. So the criminal didn't have a guy left to do the C. So at the time, I had been sober now for a lot of years. And I had been working in Unicor. I had a ton of money on my books. I was running a poker table and nightlife was good. And I kind of put the word out. If he offered you $50 to put a C on his forehead so it would say criminal, I'd give you 60, not Bill. Right? So anyone that was the word, man. Hey, if you get an offer, somebody offers you a C note, we'll give you, 110 or 120. Right? We want this dude going out the door with criminal on his head. And he's starting to get panicky because there's only one tattoo gun left in the unit. And it was a white boy tattoo gun. And this guy was not a white dude. Very light skinned, but not a white guy. And he was really kind of getting panicky, and he came up at one point and asked us straight out. He's like, "Man, are you trying to keep people from finishing my tattoo?" I said, "Of course not. Where would you have gotten that?" He's like, "I don't know, man." He's like, "I just feel like it's really hard to get anybody to do this." I said, "Well, the guy that was tattooing you isn't here. They took him to the hall, so he was gone. The gun was gone." I said, you could try to go to another unit to get it done. He's like, if I get caught doing that, I'll spend another 120 days, inside. I'll lose good time. So as he's walking away, one of my friends started singing the Smooth Criminal, but he dropped the C and started going, he's a smooth criminal. And because it's prison, and this is how prison works, within about 45 minutes, everybody, right? Every person in the entire prison, right? 1,300 of us started to call this dude the Smooth Criminal. And everybody liked that so much that there was no chance he was going to get that C before he left. So, yeah, make no mistake, it's a pretty sad tattoo story. It's not the saddest. I can go on forever. I can tell you sad prison tattoo stories probably for the next 2 hours. How about this one? There's a guy that comes up and he had just gotten a tattoo right here on his neck, big as hell. And I said to him, is your son's name Mitchell? And he goes, oh, that's not Mitchell. It says Michelle. I said, trust me, it doesn't, bro. No, it doesn't. It says Mitchell. And he goes, well, you can spell Michelle that way. I'm like, you could spell Michelle C-A-T if you really wanted to, but it's not how you spell it. And that spells Mitchell. And everybody that looks at it is going to think it says Mitchell. So if I were you, I'd start telling people, yes, I do have a son named Mitchell. That was a pretty good one. And then once I was out on a weight pile, and this was in a prison where you could still take your shirt off. You're not allowed to do that anymore. But so we're all taking our shirts off. And one of the guys I had been working out with for probably 2 or 3 months, but we were doing it in the winter. So we were outside in the snow and all that. First time I had seen him with a shirt off. And right here, like you would put sort of like a chain that goes all the way around, a neck piece that said, scared for life. And I said to him, hey, man, what's the origin of that tattoo? And he goes, figure it out, man. I go, well, who's scaring you? He goes, it says scarred for life. I went, nope. No, it sure doesn't. Here's the punchline to that. I said, when did you get that, man? 4 years ago. You've been down for 4 years, right? Walking around, going to the shop, taking shit, whatever. No one has ever said to you, hey, man, it says scared for life on your chest. Honestly, he had to come to my cell. I had to get out of the dictionary and get the spelling. And he just went, oh, my God, man. I said, yeah, that's a bit of a bummer. I knew another dude that had people's, like his girls' names, and he would get void put across it in red. So it looked like a red stamp. I bet you he had 9, right, of these things, girls' names that said void. I'm like, hey, man, maybe don't get the next girl's name on you. Right? After 9, you might want to go, hey, this isn't working out. Maybe getting the name tattooed on there is a jinx. Maybe I shouldn't go with that. But it's different in there. But absolutely. Yeah, some ones for Carol. No Regrets was a great commercial because these things happen all the time. Knew another guy. I'll throw out his last name, right? Just because it's not going to tell you anything, but just in case he's watching it, I want him to know. His last name was Lane, right? This guy's a bank robber. He's a bank robber that took a taxi cab to rob a bank. Kick that one around in your dome for a little bit, right? For real. Kick that around in your dome a little bit. He was the first cellie I got after being busted for bank robbery. And I guess they figured, well, you guys are in the same line of work. We'll put you in a cell together. He had California tattooed right here on his arm, but it was backwards, right? Think now California kind of does this number. Well, it was doing it the other way around. And I said to him, what's up with your California tattoo? Without missing a beat, he says to me, well, everything that's ever happened to me in that state was completely backward. And I go, the dude put the tattoo on backwards, huh? He goes, yeah. Like, well, at least you got a backstory, right? You gotta have one in the pipe because people, everyone's gonna look at it and go, hey man, why the hell is that way? I know a dude who did the same thing with Texas, right? He had Texas tattooed on his chest, and the panhandle was pointing in the wrong direction. So he put one on the other side, and the panhandles were pointing at each other. I'm telling you, I could do this all day long. You have no idea. So when I was at the special management unit, we're going out to rec, and you go to rec in the cages. And I was on J block, 2nd floor.
J block, first floor, no bueno, right? No bueno. The guys on J block, first floor are bad people, right? The entire tier, bad people. So they usually don't wreck them at the same time because guys will spit at them through the cages. They have bad paperwork. So they usually try to keep you as separate as possible. Renee B, good to see you. But they were bringing these guys out to a set of cages that were further, but they had to walk them by us. And there was a guy that had, like the characters from Star Trek, one side of dude's face was completely tattooed black. I mean, everything. You know, the whole thing was just completely black, like his ear, his head. And I went, good God, man, how bad is that? You know, why would anyone do that? And he said, well, it was nicer than what it said on his face. This is a guy that had bad paperwork, kind of bad paperwork like, thank you so much for your support, by the way, the kind of bad paperwork like Diddy had, right? All bad. So they got this guy intoxicated. He was in there with fake paperwork and somebody looked him up on the street. Well, they got him intoxicated. And when he passed out, they tattooed some stuff on his face, stuff that people who got convicted for this, it basically just said what he was convicted of in really big words on his face. Probably would have been tough. And here's the crazy thing. So the guy that covered it up in black is no longer with us. He got paid to cover the thing up, and the fellas went to him and said, why would you cover that? Right? Why would you cover that? The idea was you would never sneak up on a kid again, right? Why would you cover that? And the fellas took umbrage with it. They were very, very unhappy with the fact that that he did that. And in prison, when people are really unhappy, very often you get paroled. You get to walk out of there or get rolled out of there early. Tommy, tell us what's happening to Sarah tonight and tomorrow, please. So what's going to happen is this. And I'm going to hold out on this computer until 2027. So hang out. We'll get it. This is what's going to happen to her tonight. They're going to put her on a live watch. The shock to her system, because she so much believed that she was going to beat this. They're going to put her on a live watch, which means she'll be sitting in a room, more than likely wearing a dress that looks like an oven mitt that's velcroed on the top and on the sides, and sleeping on a mattress that's about this thin, but that you can't roll up or do anything with. Everything in there is designed so that you can't roll it up and wrap it around yourself. Absolutely awful. But 9 out of 10 times, that's what they do when someone says that they're in shock, or if an attorney thinks that they're, and the first thing he said was, she's in shock right now, which means he probably told the people at the jail to keep an eye on her, right? He's afraid that she may hurt herself. And they will put her in the unalive, where she'll probably be, if she were to wake up the following day and say, hey man, look, I'm going to file an appeal. This isn't the end of the world. They may take her off of the watch and actually let her into a unit, right? The Barney Rebel suit. Exactly right. The Barney Rebel suit. It is definitely called that. My takeaway from this case is don't date crazy women who are bigger than you and buy Samsonite. Two takeaways. That sums it up right there. The turtle suit. See this, everybody? These are people that have either worked there or done time, because these are all of the expressions that people use to describe that. The Barney Rebel suit, the turtle suit. Yep. It's the no fun smock. That's what you call it in Canada, north of the border. Samsonite is wasting this if they don't find a way to make an ad with this. Kristen Melinda, you are a sick person. I really like that. Don't date greasy women, says pretend judge. The oven mitt. Yep, that definitely gets called out as well. Although maybe that would be in poor taste, says Kristen Melinda. It'll take you about 40 seconds to realize that. Renee B, I think that a lot of people are happy about this. However, there's a certain percentage of you that aren't. And you're vocal, because a lot of you sent me emails. And here's the thing. They're guilty as hell, right? That's the emails that I get. Okay. They're guilty as hell. 35 years wouldn't cover that. It would have if they had given the jury an opportunity to give them a lesser sentence. But think of it this way. Last night I used the win, place, and show. Don't think of it that way. Think of gold, silver, and bronze. California was not going to get a silver or bronze because they hadn't been on the podium, right? They hadn't even, they had failed in their last 3 high-profile cases, and there was a very disturbing thing going on with a bunch of their cops out of Rampart Division. So there was a lot of politics involved with the fact that they didn't let the Menendez brothers put on the defense that they wanted, A, and B, they should have had for the jury an opportunity to say, you know what? Yeah, they did it, but I don't think it was, premeditated. One, I think that this amounts because of the abuse to this. And they would have been out already. They would have been out already. If they had given him 25 to life, these guys didn't have a right? Not one write-up on their C jacket. They've never done anything wrong. In fact, quite the opposite. They've been helping other people. They've been living the perfect life. I got somebody that sent me an email that said, it's a hustle. They're faking it. For 35 friggin' years, you can't fake something for 35 years. It will become real. You do everything any day. You do the same thing every single day for a year. It will be you. It will become who you are. Right? It's the premise of sobriety, the premise of recovery. Thank you, DJ. That's a really nice thing to say, and I hope you keep watching. Instead of the gorilla jumping on the suitcase, they could just have her. You know what? If we're going to go down that road, that's not such a bad idea, right? Honestly, instead of the gorilla, you could just have her sitting there looking miserable. You know that look I used for the thumbnail? Sadly, that's how I want to remember Suitcase Sarah, for real. And by the way, I think she's going to be in real trouble inside. Inmates, I can speak for the guys. People inside don't like drama. If you bring drama to the unit, if you bring drama to the yard, people are not going to be really happy with you, right? It's usually enough to get you in trouble. This woman is going to cause problems everywhere she goes. And apparently she's changed sides, right? If she had done this before, maybe we could have saved George, but apparently now she has a girlfriend instead. And if that's the way that she's, she's decided that that's her future, relationships inside women's prisons are different than relationships inside men's prison. Talked to a lot of people about this, and they're much more open about it. A lot of people have girlfriends. They have very serious relationships. She's going to cause problems. I promise. She's going to cause problems, and something bad is going to happen to her. She's too Sarah Boone to make it, sadly. It's crazy to me that sentences are so different in other countries. Some cultures are very different and have less violent crimes and better rehabilitation. Rehabilitation is huge. Orton Fissel. Yeah, the no fights and no write-ups in 35 years and the guards vouching that they were model inmates speaks volumes to me that these men should be free. They said, several of these COs said, not only do I think that they should be free, if they were my neighbors, I wouldn't have a problem with it. Damn. It was a soft suitcase, chicken cherry cola. It was a soft suitcase. But even soft suitcases, the corners, right, are reinforced. It was hard enough to not be able to get out of. Women in prison recreate family structures often. Kristen Melinda knows. She worked in a women's prison. You know what? She's going to be in deep trouble. Because, yeah, I'm telling you, the non-white ladies that she's locked up with, she is not going to be very popular. She is not going to be very popular. It was a soft suitcase, only hard on the back middle. Okay. Thank you, Anna. Deadhead. Really sorry for the loss today. For those who are not deadheads, Phil Lesh of the Grateful Dead passed away today, and this is the third member of the Grateful Dead in my lifetime that I have watched. And I remember when it was Brent Midland, the keyboard player. I was in an airport getting ready to get on a plane, and I was sitting at a bar having a couple of drinks, and one of the guys that was sitting next to me, all I saw was the chyron going across the bottom of the screen, and I barely caught the end. And I went, "Did that just say that the lead singer of the Grateful Dead is passed away. And he's like, yeah. And oh, no. I said, what did it say about the dead? He goes, they lost their lead singer. I was like, Jerry? And he goes, oh, I don't know. Their lead singer. Well, obviously it wasn't Jerry. But it bummed me out. And then when Jerry died, that was one of those days that really, really, look at this. When I was in, if you were disliked, you couldn't even get a shower. See that? Women in prison, right? Ain't no joke. I talked about this, but the last yard that I was on had freaks on it. It was the only yard I've ever been on that had freaks. But they weren't allowed to sit down in the chow hall. They had to stand up to eat. It's a tough place to do time if you know, with bad paperwork. If you're on the telephone talking to somebody, there's 4 other telephones in the room. That's fine. But if the 4 other telephones, someone's on them, nobody with good paperwork is going to wait for that person to get off the phone. They're going to go in there, hang the phone up, and tell them to get out. And the person will. Right? And I know that there are people who are like, oh, they shouldn't have to do that time. They shouldn't touch kids either. Right? It's pretty simple stuff. It really is. That's something that probably shouldn't happen. Wharton Thistle, you're funny. Hello, Arabian Bard. Oh, Deadhead, did I break that to you? God help us. I'm so sorry. I thought you would have seen it. I did not mean to do that to you. Oh, your name is in a reference to a book by Sean Hudson. Okay. Okay. Well, for anybody out there that's a fan of the band, kind of a tough day for us. He was the bassist. Really good guy, you know. I don't know. Everybody in that band was a good guy. Back in the old days where, I don't know, music was just different. You know, now I look at the Grateful Dead, I look at Billy Joel, the stuff I grew up with, and I look at what the hell's been going on with music these days. Speaking of, Sarah has 2 brothers. One is in the military and an upstanding human. The other is a convicted. Oh, really? Well, that's not going to help her cause either. You know what I mean? Her brother apparently is a freak. That is, I'm not going to read that out loud, but you guys can read it. Right? Arwa, you totally neutralized Kristen Melinda's road rage. We need to figure out a way to bottle that, right? A way to turn off road rage. There's money there somewhere. For real. You grew up with lots of music. That's a good thing. That is a good thing. That is a good thing. Wharton Thistle, you consistently make me smile. All right, folks, that brings us to the end of our broadcast day. At this point, I would like somebody to sing the Star Spangled Banner for me so that I can put up the color stuff that used to come up at the very end. Remember? Her sentence has not come out yet. She has been found guilty. She will get sentenced at a later date. I'm not sure when the sentence is. When the sentencing is set out for, but there will be a day of reckoning. Now she will sweat the next part of this process, and just like she was ridiculously over the top hopeful, she will do it again. Hope springs eternal, right? Hope springs eternal in the inmate that has not yet been to prison. Sentencing is sometime in early December. I can't remember the exact dates. I'll tell you something. I have been sentenced in December. I don't think it's a good month to be sentenced in. I mean it. I've had it happen twice. And I think that everybody kind of has a bad time around the holidays. And you would think that maybe there'd be a little Christmas spirit. No, not so much. Caroline, evening. Elizabeth Fraser, have a great night. I am out of here, people. I will be back tomorrow. We'll be doing all of the fun stuff. I am going to give Squirrel a rub under the chin, I promise. And I'm going to tell her from all of you, I promise. I will see you all tomorrow. Between now and then, reach out and try to save somebody. That's cool.